All right, Unit 8A, group quiz. When you are graphing, my suggestion is to always make a T-chart first. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make a T-chart, X and Y. You're going to choose your X values because that's what's in your exponent, and you need to have a negative, a 0, and a positive. So I'm doing, actually, because of the 5, I think I'm going to actually change these to -1, 0, and 1. Okay. So when I plug in and I have 5 to the negative first power, and a lot of you mess up on this on your quiz. Okay, what happens when you have a negative exponent? Bring it to the denominator to make it positive, so you end up getting 1/5. Okay, 5 to the 0 is 1, and 5 to the first is 5. So if you go -1 and up a fifth, you're just going to go up a little bit, and then we have 0 up 1, and then you have 1 up 5. Remember that this line, does it ever touch the x-axis? No. So make sure when you're graphing on your test, it does not touch the x-axis. If it does, you're going to get it marked wrong. Okay?
What if our line is kind of...
Then erase it and fix it. Then you'll want to erase it and fix it. Okay. So same thing on example 2. I'm going to choose -1, 0, and 1. When I take 1/3 to the negative first power, what happens? You flip it and it becomes 3. Okay, 1/3 to the 0 power is 1, and 1/3 to the first is 1/3. So you go -1 and up 1, 2, 3, 0 up 1, and 1 and up 1/3. So this graph goes this direction. Which one is increasing? The top one is increasing and this one is decreasing. Okay, example 3, given this equation, which statement is true? So our equation is y equals x to the n power. So it says that your x value is in between 0 and 1. Chris, pay attention. What values are between 0 and 1? Fractions. Okay, so I'm going to choose a value of 1/2 for x. And then it says n is greater than 0. So we could use 1, we could use 2, we could use anything. So if I use like 1/2 to the second power, what does that end up equaling? 1/4. You square everything inside. Okay, so anytime you have a fraction and you raise it to a power, it's always going to end up making a fraction. So therefore, which answer is correct? C. Okay, example 4. Just because you got it right doesn't mean you understand why the correct answer is what it is. So this is why you need to pay attention and ask questions. Okay. Number 4, if the equation of y equals 7 to the x's graph, which of the following values of x would produce the point closest to the x-axis? You could graph this, but what I would do is, you know that all equations that's a number to an exponent look similar. So if you go back to example 1 here, how we have y equals 5 to the x. Do we see this graph? So 5 to the x and 7 to the x are going to be similar. So on this graph, which values got a point closest to x? So the further it gets on the negative axis, the closer it'll be. Okay? So that means that your largest negative value would be the point closest to the x-axis. Therefore, my answer is B. Okay? On example 5, it says this has an equation with y equals 1/2 to the x, which is going to be similar to our number 2 that I already graphed. So on this one, the points that are going to be closer to the x-axis are going to be which values? Your larger positive values will get you closer to the x-axis. So what is your largest positive value here on example 5?
C.
C is correct, because that's 2.5. Okay. Number 6, it says one certain element decays over time with a half-life. Remember, it's important to circle or underline or highlight everything that is important. Half-life of 1,600 years. Use the formula to determine how many grams will remain after 3,200 years if 300 grams were present originally. Okay, so in this equation, what's my value for A? Good, so we have 300 times 1/2. My T value is what? Good, 3,200 divided by my half-life, which is, and what does that reduce to? Zeros cancel out. 32 divided by 16 reduces to 2. What is 1/2 to the second power? Good, 1/4. And then if you go 300 divided by 4, we get 75 grams. So don't forget your units. 75 grams is the correct answer. Okay, moving on to the next page. Okay, so number 7, we're solving for x. How do I get rid of 5/3 in my exponent? Good, you raise it to the reciprocal power, which would be 3/5. So I raise 32 also to the 3/5. Okay, but 32 to the 3/5 is not an acceptable answer. So I change that to what? Good, 5th root of 32, and then we get that answer, and we would raise it to the, so remember your bottom number represents your root. What is the 5th root of 32? 2. And so then we have 2 to the 3rd power, which is 8. Okay, did I go too fast there? Are we good? Okay, number 8. The number of people with the flu virus is growing exponentially with time as shown in this table. Which multiple choice expression gives you the best equation? I'm not reading it correctly. Okay, so what do we do for this problem?
You have to plug in 0 for your exponent.
Good. Plug in 0 and find out when you're going to plug in 0 and see which one gives us 400. If I plug in 0 for A, what does that make? What's 400 to the 0 power? 1, not the correct answer. What is 2 to the 0 power? 1, but plus 400 is 401, right, Ureli? 2 to the 0 is 1, and 800 times 1 is 800, and D, 2 to the 0 is 1, and 400 times 1 is, so the correct answer is D. Okay. Example 9. What will I need to do first here in order to solve for x?
Get the exponent by, or get x.
Good, you want to get your exponent by itself and the x by itself, so the first thing I would do is divide by 2. Okay, x to the 1/2 equals, and what's 6 divided by 2? 3. Now how to get rid of the 1/2? Raise it to the reciprocal power, which ends up being 2 or 2/1. Those all cancel. And what is 3 to the 2nd power? 9. That is my answer. X equals 9. Okay. Example 10. We need to get what first before I can solve? Good, your common bases. Can I use base 9?
No.
That is what people mess up on the test. So make sure you are sure that you have the correct base. Okay, so what base will I use? 3. And 9 is 3 to what power? Good, 3 to the 2nd power times 2x equals 27 is what? Good, 3 cubed. Also be careful in this that you have to multiply 3 times x minus 1. Okay, once you have the same bases, what do we do? Good. Okay, so now my equation is 2 times 2x, which is 4x, equals 3x minus 3. And in order to solve, what will I do? Good, subtract 3x to both sides, and we find that x equals -3. Okay. Number 10. These are the problems you guys usually do not like. That's what I meant. Okay, what base are we going to have to use? 5. 125 is 5 to what power? Good, this is 5 to the 3rd power. Root 5 is 5 to what power? Nope. 5 to the what? 5 to the 1/2 is correct, because this has an exponent of 1, and this is my root of 2, right? So that is going to become 1/2. Right? Do we agree that root 5 is 5 to the 1/2? Okay. Now, we have 5 to the third and 5 to the 1/2. In order to make that a single 5, what do we do with the exponents? You add them. What? So, 3 plus 1/2 is what? 3.5. So I have 5 to the 3.5 power equals, and then I have 5 to the x minus 2. So now I can drop these bases. So I have x minus 2 equals 3.5. But I would change 3.5 to what? You could do 3.5, I guess. I would change it to 7 over 2. So I'd have x minus 2 equals 7 over 2, because 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7, so I write that as 7 over 2. Then I get rid of the fractions in my problem. How do I get rid of fractions? You can multiply everything by 2, so if I do that, I end up getting 2x minus 4 equals 7. And then I'd finish the problem by adding 4. 2x equals 11 and divide by 2. Now, so I have x equals 11 over 2. You can do it a lot of different ways. So if you're getting the same answer but solving it a different way, that is great. Okay, questions on 11? Number 12. How am I going to rewrite 1/3 so that'll be a base 3?
You have to make it a negative.
Not a negative number, but a negative exponent. So it'll be 3 to the
3 to the negative x plus 1.
3 to the negative 1 times x minus 5. I realize you skipped a step, but that's okay. And then 3 to the 4 minus 2x. Okay, now that I have the same base, I will drop those. And so I end up with negative x plus 5 equals 4 minus 2x because I distributed the negative through. And what will I do to finish solving?
Bring over 2x.
Good. Add 2x to both sides. So then we have x plus 5 equals 4. And then lastly, I will subtract 5 to get x equals negative 1. Questions? Okay. I'm going to stop here and start the next